just in case.
Get a lot better at blowing. All right.
You got my Hennessy in here now?
Yes, sir. All right, you guys are good.
I didn't get the Hennessy.
You say what? I'm out.
All right.
Have fun.
Action camera, go. Where's the clap at, dog? You didn't do the clap today. Thank you. All right, man. Well, I'm fucking excited.
You.
We got Coach Basheer Abdullah here with us today. We had we're gonna have our first guest, and who better than Coach B? I'm gonna try not to put him on a pedestal like I always do. I'm gonna be like,
That's right. Lift me up.
But this is one of the few men that I look up to and respect. And Maggie,
it's funny because we didn't even say anything about it last week. That he was actually supposed to come on last week, and there was just, I guess, I don't know. We didn't follow up on it, whatever. But no, I'm super stoked. I'm very excited because it's a different setting for us. So I'm very fortunate to have the both of you to look up to in the gym. So I'm looking forward to picking Coach's brain a little bit, put him in the hot seat.
Yes, it's burning already, and I'm very excited to be you guys' guest today. You know, and you guys told me that I'm the very first guest.
Yep,
so
inaugural.
I'm honored, feel special. I'm stoked. I'm excited, and I'm ready for this journey with you guys.
Question 1.
we're trying to make it. I'm like a little boy right now, so I'm gonna start to stay cool. Coach, the first question is a super simple question.
Okay.
When did you realize that you started liking boxing, and where were you? And break it down to us.
Wow, I think I was in high school. You know, I used to go support my friends, some of my friends that used to box. One of the guys that I used to work with was named Tasso Pearson. We used to work together, and he was boxing. And another one of my homies, Matthew, his name Matthew, and he got into it, so it kind of inspired me to try to get into it. You know, I was a street kid coming up.
Tell them where you're from, though.
I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, so I was a little street kid. St. Louis is a very tough place to grow up. You know, I'm not going to tell a whole lot of stories about St. Louis. I know Joe heard it, but if you do your research, it's easy to find about St. Louis. It's a different world. It's like a third world city to me, you know. And so I was a kid that always tried to challenge myself. And I always thought I was a tough kid, you know. So anything that appeared to be tough, I wanted to be a part of it. So boxing was one of those things that appeared to be tough to me, you know, and I wanted to build my name in boxing. So I went out and tried it, but I never was able to commit to it.
Yeah.
You know, because so many things was going on in the streets that was distracting me, you know. But I loved it. I loved training. Once I did go to the gym, I loved training. I loved the sparring. Even though I was getting my ass kicked at that time, I was a novice. I was taking my L's in the gym at that particular time. But watching all those guys, like I can't call any names right now. I'm having a brain fart here.
That's the pressure of the podcast, Coach.
Exactly. But a lot of great fighters out of St. Louis that I used to watch out of the Western Gym. I'm not calling any names right now, but they inspired me also. You know, I've always been a boxing fan, you know, and so one day I just woke up and challenged myself to see if I can do that as well. You know, I was an athlete always, playing basketball, football.
Motherfucker's competitive.
You know? Yeah. Very competitive. You know that,
yeah.
You know, and so I did it. I didn't take it serious until I joined the military.
Coach, you mentioned growing in the gym, right? When you first started, that you got your ass kicked a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How important do you think that aspect of boxing is? Because I've heard, different. I've heard Canelo say that at 14 he was getting his ass handed to him in the gym. Brian at 14 he was getting his ass handed, sparring pros and all that. Do you think that that's an important part of?
I think so. I think it's very important because at that phase of your development, you really find out if you really want this or not.
Right.
Because a lot of young men and women, when they start taking those L's, it runs them away from the gym. They don't come back. But the ones that really passionate about it and really want to do that, no matter how many times they get their butt kicked in the gym, they return. They come back to work.
Right.
You know, so I think it's a very important part of your development. You know, I think the guys that come in there and start winning right away, you know, they become arrogant. You know, they don't know anything about failure in the game right away. And I think it's very important that you go through that phase, like you asked. You know, because it humbles you real quick.
That's a great way to put it.
It humbles you real quick. You know, when you start taking those L's in the gym.
Do you remember the first time you were disappointed with not even an L, just getting your ass handed in sparring at the gym? Like, not like a memory, but just like the feeling, you know, like, damn, I suck. Like, I remember training hard and learning how to parry the jab, and then when the bell rang, I forgot to fucking parry.
Well, the very first time I got it, you know, my butt kick was in St. Louis. I didn't know anything. I was just in the gym training. Really hadn't been schooled on anything yet.
Gotcha.
You know, wasn't really assigned to a coach.
Right.
You know, I was just part of the gym, showing up. And I think one of the kids that I sparred, my very first sparring session, is one of the street kids that we used to beef with in high school and shit like that. But he had been in the gym longer than I have.
Right.
You know, and that son of a gun gave it to me that day, Joe. You know, I wanted to catch him back out on the block.
Get that get back.
I couldn't let that go, you know, but, you know, it was all good. It humbled me, you know. It started questioning you. Are you the tough street kid that you think you are?
Right.
Not realizing that this is a skill.
Right.
You know, boxing is a skill. It's not street fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's a technique. It's technique required, and it's a skill set.
Oh, the ego loves to take over, though. Because I remember that moment, too. It was like, oh, you're not who you thought you were.
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
You get humbled quickly in boxing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you haven't been humbled, stay around long enough, you will
get humbled.
That's right. You will.
You will get humbled.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know, Coach Basheer happened to be on the national teams, Olympic teams. So my next question for you was, one or two of your best memories you've had in the Olympics?
Ooh. Two of my best.
It could be any. You could talk about as many as you want, but
I think the first one was everything that happened to me that comes to mind happened with the 2004 team. That was my very first Olympic team as a head coach, and I think that very first moment when Andre Durrell and Andre Ward beat two of the best amateur boxers in the world in the quarterfinals. Yeah. We was down to our last two boxers at that point. You know, we started off with a bang. We was winning that first round of prelims, and then the second and third round of prelims, we got our butt handed to it. I mean, they kicked our butt. You know, and I started stressing, and now we're down to our last two fighters. Those two guys going into the quarterfinals. Andre Ward was up against the Russian, the reigning world champion, and Durrell was up against the Cuban. You know,
two powerhouses, yeah.
Oh, my God. You know, so you're talking about a coach that's stressing. You know, I remember taking those two guys to the Olympic Village and speaking to them alone about the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, it's up to you guys to prevent us from being total humiliated in all 4 games. And man, did they answer.
It's funny. She just sent me a message this morning about Joe Louis when he was going to fight Max Schmeling. And it's Teddy Atlas saying, you think you have pressure? Joe Louis was heavyweight champion of the world, signed up for the military, and was pressured to fight Max Schmeling under Hitler's regime.
Right.
In a country.
In a country. Yes.
Yeah.
And he lost.
Right.
In a country that he wasn't allowed to even be free.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, that's what Teddy Atlas touched on. That he wasn't even free in his own country. And then he comes back and has a rematch and he destroys Max Schmeling. But to hear that Durrell and Ward, you know, that pressure is sometimes fighters need that pressure.
Yes.
Well, the greats always respond to it.
Yes.
You know, the greats, and those was two of our best fighters at that particular time. And they went on to do great things as professional fighters.
Speaking of pressure, though, Coach, you know, a lot of people, they ask the athletes, but as a coach, you know, and was that your first time at the Olympics as a coach?
As a head coach.
As a head coach.
All the responsibility was on me. In 2000, games, I was the technical advisor.
Yeah.
So the pressure wasn't on me like it was the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember Al Mitchell told me one time, you know, he said, the fighters have the most pressure on them inside the ring. Then in the corner, the head coach is second. The second amount of pressure on him because he got to make the decisions that's going to determine if that fighter win or lose. Then the assistant coach, he has less. He can say whatever he wants. He giving advice totally relaxed.
Right.
It's not on him or her. He just shooting out advice. And then the fans, they see even more because they further away. They don't have no responsibility. They just fans. They shouting out.
They're the biggest experts.
That's right. They're the biggest experts. Exactly. So they shouting all type of things. So pressure, the great coaches and athletes, they love it.
Right.
They live up to it. They accept it. They embrace it.
And it sounds like you definitely embraced that moment.
At the time, I didn't think I was embracing because I'm not going to sit here. I was stressing my ass off.
Oh, yeah, I'm
at
sure.
04 games. Lost a lot of weight. I'm a small guy, still today.
105.
Yeah. I was about 105 that day. And so when those guys answered the bell and had great performance, man, it kind of lifts some of that pressure off of them because we're still shooting for gold.
Right.
We just advanced to the semifinals. We're going home with a medal for sure, but nothing is like taking that gold medal home.
Oh, I'm sure.
Why? This is a question for the listeners. I just wanted to ask another coach. Why, when we lose, we take it so personal, like it's our fault, but when we win, we always like, yeah, we're happy that the fighter won. Mm-hmm. Like we separate us. I'm speaking for me, but I've seen some of that, like when they lose or they don't perform up to the standard that we want, we're very disappointed in ourselves. Is that a result of how we are pushes onto the fighters? Like the fighters take our energy? Do you think like if we set up the bar like that high, like for example, if a fighter loses not listening to you, it's his fault, but nobody else knows that but us.
Right.
Right. But we get blamed for everything, basically. Right. Do you feel the pressure? Do you feel like your pressure you give them is for them to respond, or is it for? I kind of got lost in the question myself.
Well, I think each athlete is different.
Yeah.
So you gotta be very careful of what language you use to certain athletes. Some athletes you can just be raw with, be real.
Right.
Because they mentally strong up here. You ain't got to cut no corners. You ain't got to sugarcoat it. You just give it to them. And then there are certain athletes you got to tone it down. You got to find the right tone, the right words, or else you'll break them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then sometimes even those guys that you believe, and I'm thinking of Ron Silers right now. He's a street kid, tough kid, and when I look back at the 04 games, my tone, I wish I would have used a different tone for him. But he was that kid that I thought I can give it to him straight up. And I'm, no matter what tone I use, I'm raising my voice at him, blah, blah, blah. And then he responded. When he responded like this, it reminded me of my coach yelled at me one time. And I'm supposed to be this tough kid too. But I didn't like the way he responded. He let me know that he didn't like that tone that I was using. So it was the wrong tone. Yeah. Even though he's a street kid, tough kid, I'm thinking he's mentally strong up here. You got to know these athletes.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And just to veer off a little bit, I believe that the relationship between a coach and athlete coach is extremely important because we even touched on it last week a little bit about like, when you're the cut man and all that stuff. It's like when you learn to understand where this fighter comes from, I think it makes it a little easier for you to learn how to communicate effectively with them to where they will respond to you when you need them to respond to you. So what is your perspective on that, on developing relationships with your fighters, and like what do you have, like a method, or do you just day by day just develop?
I don't have a method, it's day by day. You just paying attention to your athletes. How they move in a gym, the sensitive things. Like I'm gonna use one. It's one example I have in the gym. I just learned. I just recently changed my approach with one of the athletes, one of the amateur athletes. I'm not gonna call any names.
Yeah.
But I used to joke around and say whatever I wanted to say to him. But I realized that was coming across very negative to that individual, and it made him put hit his head down, and he wasn't responding to me in a very positive way. So this individual, I realized that I had to keep it positive. You know, every time we trained, I had to find a way to give him positive feedback.
Right.
You know, because the more positive feedback I gave him,
I love that
the better he performed.
I love that you realize that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Some coaches don't realize that. It's all about them. You know, it's about their and you are humble enough to understand and be receptive to their energy and try to help them. You know, a lot of coaches don't fucking do that. It's their way and that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's like in technical terms, it's autocratic. It's like very dictatorship, you know. And for me, my perspective on both of you is transformational. It's like it's not transactional either. Transactional would be like, I'm getting this out of it, you're getting that out of it.
Right.
Transformational is like, I'm helping you, not helping you, but as a coach, I want you to become a better fighter and a better person at the same time.
That's right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Because I believe in your potential, not because I'm going to get something out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, you have coaches don't even have a philosophy. They can't even define their philosophy, you know? And so, you know, one of that small part of my philosophy is going to always be athlete first.
Right.
You see? So my decisions got to be based on what's best for that athlete, not what's best for me.
Right.
You know, and unfortunately we have coaches, it's their way of the highway, so to speak.
Absolutely.
You know, and they don't know how to tweak their system to better their athlete or to fit that athlete into their system, you know, so to speak.
Now, I guess the question for both of you, do you guys think that there's a moment for that style of like, no, this is how it's got to be. It's got to be this way?
Like he said, it's situational. Like, depends
That
if he
there's
doesn't want to do it
situations.
first. Maybe he doesn't want to do it for a certain reason, out of fear, out of afraid to fail, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you got to get him out of that little. And some of them, you know, that's just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
there's a time for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's going to be a time I'm going to raise my voice. I want
Right.
you to shut up. I want you to listen to me,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
You know, especially when you get to the fight, that trust has to be between the two, head coach and athlete. And so in the heat of battle, you know, our voice might escalate.
Right.
You know, that sense of urgency. You don't want to be that coach that's yelling all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that fighter can't determine if shit got serious.
Right.
So to speak.
Right.
You know, if you're yelling all the time, the moment you really need him to listen to you, that's when you're going to elevate that tone.
Right.
Hey, listen, this is important. You getting hit with that right hand, man, blah, 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 or girl, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a time when you can care less about their feelings.
I think to be a coach or a leader, you really have to be socially and emotionally intelligent.
Absolutely.
Because you have to learn how to read people and understand what kind of stress responses they have. Because some are they're gonna respond on their own. They can make the adjustment by themselves, you know. But then there's some where you just gotta like find your way.
You gotta play with the joystick.
Yeah.
Throw this right hand, throw this left.
Exactly.
Bob and weave, you know.
Exactly. So regardless, I think it's so rewarding when athletes, when the fighters, when they realize that, you know, they're capable of much more than they thought, you know.
And my fighters know, you know, I constantly remind them that just because I'm quiet over there, when I'm quiet over there, that means you don't need my assistant.
Right.
It's about you. I don't want to make it about me. The more I'm yelling and giving instructions, the more I'm putting the attention on me. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to shout instructions when they're needed. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Or when I see a threat or whatever, you know? And so sometimes when they feel that when I'm quiet, they're not being coached.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not the case. And I'm trying to remind them, if I'm not saying anything to you, you're doing a damn good job.
That's one thing I really love about Coach Basheer. He always like sits down with the guys after they train.
Right.
And he talks to them about that. He could be talking to them about that or anything in general about what he expects from them. And I don't mean to eat, but I'm walking by, you know, and I can hear them talking. And that's like, coaching doesn't stop for him when they're done training. You know, he's coaching them. And I admire that. So that's my next question for you. I didn't write it down right here. What a blessing was it for you to have a person like Al Mitchell mentor you?
Ah, man, wow. I thought I knew something about coaching when I met Al. I was 30-something years old. probably in my mid-30s, and it was such an honor and, man, a blessing that the Army decided to send me. Once they chose me to be the head coach of the entire Army program worldwide, they sent me to train up under this man for 3 months. And whew, once I got there, I realized I didn't know shit. I didn't know a damn thing about coaching.
I got the honor, Maggie, and I let him go back to that.
Yeah.
But in 2000, I think it's 2016, we fought in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I cornered with Coach Basheer. I helped Coach Basheer with Raquel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we fought Franchon or Clarissa Shields.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of them. And Al Mitchell helped us in the corner.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had Coach Basheer and Al Mitchell. I just wanted to hold the bucket, dog. I was cool just hearing them talk to each other while they were talking very low tone. And I was like, this is so cool because I know Al Mitchell's been around
very long.
everybody.
Yeah.
No, but fighters, every fighter knows him.
Yeah.
Every fighter from Floyd, Raul Marquez, everybody just knows him. Everybody that's an Olympian for the U.S. or a high talented amateur caliber fighter know him. Yeah. And he talked to me, just because of Coach Basheer, I got to hang out with Al Mitchell and just hearing him talk. I also got around, because of Coach Basheer, I got to hang around with Virgil Hunter.
Right.
And I got to hang around with those guys and hear them talk. And oh my God, Ron Sims.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys that I was around was thanks to Coach Basheer, just listening and just being a little fly on the wall when they were talking.
And that's a blessing to me. I'm cool with that too. You know what I'm saying? Just to be around that and understand, just to be there, absorb it. But when you get there, and you think to yourself that you don't know that you barely know scratching the surface.
That's right.
Do you feel a sense of like excitement, like is it overwhelming for you, or is it something that you're looking forward to? Looking back on it now, because I know at the time, I don't know, you might feel different than what you do now.
To be honest, I was a bit nervous going out there because Al Mitchell had a team of national champions, and some of these guys I boxed with, and most of those guys achieved more than I did in amateur boxing. So I'm like, I'm gonna get these guys to listen to me.
Right.
I'm gonna say, but I thank God for giving me the mindset to go there and just listen.
Just listen.
Right. Keep your mouth shut. Just listen.
That's huge.
You see? So I remember times, one of the times, I remember how my role ended up playing with that team. Al is a very tough, hard, old school coach, and he was really hard back then at that time, and there would be athletes beefing with Al at times, and so I was that buffer. You see, I found myself at different nights going to dinner with this athlete and lunch with this athlete, just to address that issue.
Yeah.
I never sided with those athletes,
right,
but I explained to them what Al was trying to do and say in a very calm and
in a way that they could understand it.
Yeah, tone, without yelling.
Right.
But there's no tension between us.
Right.
Look, man, this was Al trying to tell you and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And they would get it and we'll move on. And so I said, okay, I see my role. But one of my favorite stories with Al is that when he was ready to send me out on my own to test me, test all the things that he had taught me in that first 3 or 4 weeks, that first month. So he sent me to Chicago with the team. I didn't even know how to wrap hands at that time. So I take the team, solid team, national champs, blah, blah. We go to Chicago. They smoked anyway. But I remember when I was trying to wrap hands, it looked like I just wrapped some toilet paper around their hand, Gauze was so loose coming off. And Mike Nunley, he was the team captain. And God bless his soul, because, that was one of the favorite guys. He's former national champ, strong hopeful to make the 96 Olympic team, but he drowned. But I remember Mike Nunley saying to me when I was wrapping the hand, he said, "Coach, it ain't gonna make a difference." And he was so right, because they smoked Chicago that night. But Al wanted to send me out there on my own without him being on my shoulder. I got the team. I'm coaching the team in the corner by myself. So that was one of my greatest experiences. And that was the time that I saw myself
with greatness, huh?
Yeah. No, I don't know about greatness.
No, I'm talking about great athletes. Like when you know what it feels like to walk in there and beat everybody.
Yeah.
You just walk out like.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you walk out with your chest up a little bit high. You know, but I walked out with a little bit more confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And as a coach, you need those situations too, right? Where you feel if you feel a little nervous, it's because there's growth on the other side of that. Just like it is for the fighters to be stepping up in level of opponents. You know, I think it's the same for a coach.
Right.
I remember my first moment when you sent me over to Canelo by myself, and I didn't know I was going to be by myself. I thought everybody was coming with me, and it was nerve-wracking, you know, because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but you know, it helps you grow. You start you come out with a little bit more confidence.
That's
you know,
and then you start wanting to compete against the best. You know, I remember I always wanted to beat Al. You know, I was always competing against him. You know, and I knew if I beat Al Mitchell, I beat one of the best coaches and a well-trained athlete. You know, so I was trying to measure myself off him, off his success. You know, and then I remember one day he finally told me. He told me that I put too much focus on trying to beat him, and that's what's holding me back.
Ooh.
You know, and so one day we was at the Nationals. I had Julius Fogel, 165, and what's the kid, Eric Kelly. They was getting ready to fight in the semifinals. I believe it was the semifinals of the quarter. But my arrogance stood out. I felt that I had the better fighter. So we were standing in the hallway at the Olympic Training Center, and I was just gloating. Yeah, this is my first time I'm getting ready to beat Al Mitchell, right? And so Al felt that energy.
Yeah.
He said he went back to the dorm, pulled Eric Kelly to the side. He said, "You're going to win tomorrow. You might not win after that, but your ass is going to win tomorrow." They beat us, right? And then after they beat us, Al said, "I refuse to let you beat me that day."
Ooh.
Because he said you were so arrogant that day. You know, you just knew you had that win in the bag. Right.
You need to let that ego come out though, because knowing that it's there is better than, you know, not knowing that you have that, and sometimes you need to pull that out.
That's right. You need to be humble.
Yeah.
It's all about growth.
Right.
And that was an area that I needed to grow in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so 2 months later, we had the rematch because the top 4 had to fight. We was number 4, and Eric Kelly was 1, or I think he was 1. I think he won it, right? Yeah, he won it, and so we had to fight Eric Kelly first at the challenge.
Yeah,
and we beat him. But I didn't show any arrogance, none of that type. I learned to camouflage whatever I was feeling inside. That whether I felt confident or whatever, if it was fear or confidence, I learned to camouflage.
Right, as coaches, you got to learn to poker face too.
That's right.
You know,
and you can't let. Especially if it's fear or concerns, you can't let the
transpire.
Athlete that's right. You cannot feel that. You know.
Hey, Coach, one time we were talking and you were telling me that I think it was one of your first international tournaments. You went to one of those countries, and what you can touch on it or not, but what makes those countries so good at boxing, Coach?
Because at the time we had, our kids were 17 years old.
Yeah, I know that.
At the elite level, 17 to 35. So, and we competing against grown men. These guys in their late 20s.
28.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right. They don't have better skills than us, but that physical strength. And then they stay around for amateurs for 3 or 4 Olympics.
Right.
A lot of these countries didn't have professional opportunities. But Al Mitchell, to touch on the story, I had got selected for my first international competition as the head coach of Team USA. And it was against Budapest, Hungary. So I called Al to get some advice for him. He said, "Oh, it's one of them hard countries." He looking at the roster, my roster, and compared it to that country. He said, "You'd be lucky you get 2 wins." He said that to me. So I'm on the phone, and I'm like, man, smirking like this, like, man, you crazy. I got DeVarel Williams, Ricardo Williams, Orlando. I got all number 1s, the top dogs, right? Maggie. It's 12 fighters.
Yeah.
I have, and the first 10 lose.
You got 2 wins?
Oh, I got the last 2. Light heavyweight and super heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh my God.
my guy and his guy won. But I'm sitting there stressing. I said, "This Mama Jamma was right."
That's his word, Maggie.
That's
Mama
Jamma.
Jamma.
Yeah.
That's his word. He don't curse.
What was that story real quick? You don't have to talk about what fighter it was, but he was, you guys were fighting somebody and you guys couldn't do nothing right. And I think he said something like this, Mama Jamma.
I say certain parts.
Yeah.
You know, it was against Russia. It was in the United States, and we was fighting Russia.
Yeah.
Right, and the fighter come back to the corner. You know, he looked confused. We were confused. You know, but the fighter come back to the corner. Al climbing in the ring. He said, "This Mama Jamma smarter than the both of us." Al Mitchell was so he's something else, man.
That's cool.
He keep it 100 all the time. I love that young man. You know, he's probably one of the best mentors I had in my life.
That's awesome. That's a big blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. To have a mentor like that for sure.
absolutely.
Coach, how many fighters do you have right now? And how do you manage training all of them?
I have 4 professionals that I'm working with right now, and take the 4 from the 16, that leaves 12 amateurs.
12 amateurs. Wow.
12 amateurs, and they come and go. It's up and down.
Yeah.
You know,
Like the stock market.
yeah. But right now, I'm dealing with 12, and you know, it's all about structure, man. Putting the schedule together and living by that schedule. You know, every Sunday, man, I'm sitting down and I'm putting the schedule together for my professionals and my amateurs. You know, a lot of the professionals at the level right now that we're not in the gym every day with
Right.
each other. You know, but the amateurs, I'm developing them. They still, it's a group of young amateurs. I think Aaron Harding is the most experienced amateurs that I have right now. Because
Yeah.
Victor is no
He's
longer
nice.
with us.
Yeah.
You know,
Stock
and-
market.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying it right now.
Did
know?
you ever think you were gonna dabble in the pro game?
I always had dreams of being a professional trainer. You know, I came to San Diego with the intent to just deal with professionals only.
Oh, okay.
In 2012, you know, my wife, she told me not too long ago, she told me, "Don't tell me you're done with the amateurs until you are truly done with the amateurs." Because every time I keep
pulling you back.
adding, yes, every time, and she, you know, she doesn't like that. She support whatever I truly want to do,
Right.
more, but I'm conflicting my feelings towards her.
Yeah.
You know, constantly. I'm done after this.
It's because you're speaking to her freely.
Right.
You're talking from the heart, you know,
Yeah.
and then sometimes we say things that we don't mean at that moment.
Right.
Well, we mean it, but the love we have for the sport.
this sport.
Yeah, this sport is crazy.
And these kids, you know, they always coming through the door with a story.
Right.
This journey of my coaching career is totally different than my military coaching. When I was coaching the military, I have total control.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Look, whatever that personal shit is you're dealing with in the military, hey, put that shit in order. We got to focus on this mission.
Yep.
And let's go make this Olympic team.
Right.
You know, but I'm a little bit more softer. I'm not going to say empathetic because I consider myself an empathetic person,
Right.
but I'm more sympathetic
Right.
with this group. You know,
Yeah.
because their life is different. They don't have the financial support,
Right.
you know, like the military team did.
Right,
You know,
right.
all they had to do is just show up for training.
And train. That's it.
That's it, because per diem, lodging, travel,
Everything.
equipment, all that is provided.
Literally, you just show up.
That's
Train.
it. Show up and train.
And some of those kids, I'm not speaking, like, they didn't even appreciate that at that
They
time.
didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. And they became, some of them became entitled. Some of them, you know, felt privileged. You know, wow. You know, if I would have had what they had when I was boxing for the Army, oh
Yeah.
my God.
I had a guy last night, I was on the phone, and this guy goes, "Joe, you need to get a bigger camp. I mean, a bigger team.
Mm-hmm.
That way we can, you know, get your name out there more." And I said, "Bro, I live in San Diego.
Right.
a lot of these kids that want to come train here with me, they can't because of how much it costs out here.
The cost of living.
Right.
Well, 1-bedroom apartment is like almost $3,000, $2,500 for rent.
Right.
So, it's like they'd rather go somewhere else. And, I wonder how they do it. LA's the same.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the coaches out there have like a condo or 2 condos and they put everybody in there together, The only thing is San Diego's so hard because of the cost of life.
Yeah.
Cost of living.
Cost of living, I'm sorry.
Yeah, cost of living is hard out here.
Coach, I had to ask you another. Oh, Maggie, do you want to ask him about the methods or?
Yeah, I don't know if you have anything differs, right? Juggling between amateur and pro. If there are any differences, I mean, to me now, watching you, it seems like it's very seamless. But when you first started doing pro and amateur, were there any kind of like blurred lines for you, or was the transition just smooth, like you from the get go? Because the style is different, but I don't know if because it's something that it sounded like you always wanted to do it, that it's just you didn't even think about that.
I was concerned. I'm not going to say I didn't give thought to it, but my training method is the same.
Mm-hmm.
With the pros, I think I just give them more one-on-one than I do the amateurs. There's more group training with the amateur than it is with the pros. But I also include the pros with the amateurs because I think it's beneficial to both.
Right.
The pace.
I'd love that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pace for the pros, because the amateurs is still a fast pace.
Right.
When we look at the professional boxing, a lot of the fights, elite fights, they start off pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Today.
That's true.
And less running with the amateurs as far as miles, distance-wise. I don't run my amateurs no more than 3 miles.
Okay.
I think the pros have to run 5, more than 3, 5, 6, because they need that aerobic,
right?
Some more aerobic conditioning, but it's still more anaerobic.
Right.
They going 12.
Right.
But we still got to build that aerobic system.
The base.
In them. Yeah,
right.
The base. And then they cutting weight also.
Mm-hmm.
If they not running, they not going to cut that weight.
Yeah.
Coach, I love watching you when you train the guys in the group settings, and you got like Austin out there. I see the rest of the guys just looking at Austin. I see like when Big Shot was here, just Big Shot's like the energy at the gym.
Right.
Like watching those guys train. Like you see that that's why I like when you work them in together, because I try to do that too.
Yeah.
Because I think that the pros are like an example for these guys.
That's right.
Yep.
They're inspiration for them. They looking up to these guys. And
it works both ways because they need to learn how to be leaders too.
That's right.
That's
right.
I think that's where their leadership begins. Is like trying to tell the guys coming up, the amateurs, or even like the members that work with us. Sometimes it's like, hey, this and that, and then in turn they get the experience from it too.
That's right. That's right. And I tell them, and I explain to them, you guys is not going to get treated the same. Think about the military concept. A private is not getting treated the same way an NCO getting treated.
Right.
An NCO is not getting treated the same way an officer is getting treated.
I'm checking out. These guys both are military. I'm not, so I don't know what they're talking about. They're both.
But we can keep it in boxing term. A novice fighter is not getting treated the same
there
way.
You go.
Elite fighter is going to get treated.
Right.
And just because you're elite doesn't mean you're going to get treated the same way that national champion is going to be treated.
Right.
There's privileges. But when I'm letting Aaron take off more than I let this person, this novice fighter, but I'm expecting more from Aaron. I'm expecting him to be on time and be the example and the leader of the team.
Right.
So there's a give and take in that situation.
Right.
Absolutely. Before we touch on the last one, it's my favorite Coach Basheer story. We want to give a shout out to our first sponsors ever, women's boxing. Coach, what was it like for you coaching the female Olympic team, like compared to the men?
Woo, that was a learning process because when the women was supposed to be included in the 04 and 08 games.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get included until 2012, of course.
Right.
But during that journey, those first 8 years prior to 12, that was a learning process for me because I really didn't know how to deal with the emotional state of women. And I had a lot of surprises, but I remember sparring one of my female athletes, and she broke down crying in the middle of sparring. You know, and
man.
I was clueless to how to coach this. What the hell I'm gonna say? Because this just don't happen in boxing.
Yeah,
there's no crying in boxing,
right? So I didn't know what to do, how to respond to it. You know? So I prepared myself for it the next time, which it did happen. You know, so when the individual broke down and cried, I said, "Stop!" I stopped. Get your ass out of the ring and go gather yourself. Go over that. You know, she stood over there.
In that tone right there?
Oh,
I would have did whatever the fuck you told me, dog.
You know, and go gather yourself. So we continued to spar.
Yeah.
You know, she still wasn't ready. She didn't pull herself back together where I can continue to spar. Sparring session over. I go into my office. She come into my office crying. I said, turn around. Take your ass back out there and gather yourself. When you gather yourself, then you can come in here and we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
But until then, you're not coming here with all this. I don't want to hear that.
Ain't no room for it.
That's right. No room for it. So when you gather yourself, come back in here, then we can have that conversation.
Man, I'm laughing because this morning I was listening to a podcast of this. He's like a neurologist, psychiatrist, psychologist, all this shit. And just real briefly, he was like, he scans brains. He scans brains of professionals, celebrities, all that shit. He's scanned, I don't know how many fucking brains in his whole career. And he was talking about how they did a study where they scanned the brains of women like in the last week of their cycle. And he said it was similar to somebody with multiple personalities. Wow. And I started laughing. I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
But I love coaching the women.
I know you don't know. Yes. That's why I touched it on when we talked about women's boxing because you know I see what Amber does. I think Aaron's mom is part of that too, right?
Yeah.
Part of that.
And the women, I love that they're getting united together. That's why I wanted to elaborate on the women boxing because these girls are doing the same thing, you know.
Right. And the reason I love coaching the women is because they're so much more coachable, and there's no ego clashes between the male coach and the female boxer. You see. You can tell a female to work on, give her specific instructions to work on a certain thing. Walk around the gym, come over there and chop it up a minute, turn around before that round is over. She's still locked in. She's focused on that. But you stand at the bag and you give specific instructions to a guy. You walk to the next bag, turn around. That fool doing something.
He's trying to talk to that female athlete.
So you constantly got to remind the guys of what the drill is or what the focus is for that day.
Right.
Out there trying to get flashy, slick. No, that's not what we're working on today, dude. No, lock in.
And I'm having the, you know, kind of a new experience coaching Kara and Juju.
Right. Yeah.
And it's true. I didn't realize that until you said that right now.
That's right. They lock in.
Yeah, they lock in from start
now
to finish.
You have to deal with the emotional side.
Right.
Of, the females, you know. And one thing about females, they're going to ask questions.
Yes. Juju asked me questions. That's true.
I'm not going to throw no names. 2015, 16, Coach Basheer calls me. At the time, I wasn't blessed to be working with him yet.
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, Joe, I got this female athlete. She's good. I can't train her no more. She's super. You get everything. She has everything you have. She's an athlete. She's strong. What's up, Coach? What's wrong with her?" Then he broke it. Then he broke it down to me. He's like, "It's because I have a girl in the same weight division.
Yeah, right.
And they might see each other in the box house. And I just thought if she's gonna go anywhere, go with you."
Yeah.
I said, "All right." Girl came over with me, and I started training her. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a couple months passed, and Coach Basheer we got blessed with Coach Basheer coming to our gym with us.
Right.
And that he brought his female athlete. Well, I'll say her name, Raquel Miller. She came and we were training together in the same. My girl the girl that I was training didn't want to train when Raquel was there. Raquel didn't give two shits.
Right.
She didn't want to spar her. She didn't want to do any of that. I said, "Girl, if you ever see her, you kind of already know her. So no, I don't want to." I was like, I had never dealt with an athlete and I kind of messed up and let her get big.
Yeah.
So when she lost, I lost it. I went off on her. Coach Basheer was looking at me.
Hotel lobby. I remember that.
And Yeah.
He made her cry.
Yeah. I told her, go gather yourself. Come back.
That's definitely not what you said. I already know.
But that's how I was blessed with Coach Basheer. And then Raquel was competitive. She didn't give a shit. She was like, let's do
she's
this.
very competitive.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And this person didn't want to spar a guy that weighed 135. It had to be this. It had to be that. You know what I said? You know what? You need to be an instinctful asshole. And she always wanted to break down on how and why.
Yeah.
If I throw this punch and this doesn't work, how do I do? And then I can tell a coach saying like brainiacs.
Yeah.
But a little too much.
Yeah.
A little bit too much.
Yeah.
Now
it's an
balance.
overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an overkill.
So you have to, when you can't react on instincts, then you're pretty much screwed in the fight game. You don't have that much time to think, you know?
That's
Thinking
true.
too much. Yeah.
What an interesting dynamic.
So here's my final question, Coach. Can you share, because I like to share stories. I share stories a lot. I'm the storyteller on the. Can you talk about your Tim Austin story? For those who don't know, Tim Austin went to the Olympics, right?
92, was it 92 Olympics?
And he was a world champion, and he was a
bronze
stud.
medalist at the Olympic Games too in 92. You know,
Tell him the story,
a
Coach.
huge 12-pounder too. You know, I used to fight. It's crazy. I used to fight 112 as an amateur, and my first national trip. I was looking forward. You know, as an athlete, you're looking to see who's ranked in your weight division, and you start targeting guys who you want to beat and who you want to fight and all this type of stuff. At that time, Tim Austin was the reigning national champ for Team USA. You know, so I got my eye on Tim Austin, right? You know, get to the nationals, I win all army, win armed forces, get to the nationals. I remember it was the prelims, and he was sitting on in the bleachers on the second row or the last row. He was sitting there. And I spotted him. I walked over to him. Walked up to him. I said, I can't wait to fight you. Tim Austin, calm, cool, collected. I have never seen anyone. Usually guys would get all overly excited, like, well, yeah, just, you know, start barking and all that.
Yeah.
Tim looked up at me. He said, just make it to the finals. That's it.
Oh,
it chills through my body right there. That fool in there, he just make it to the finals. So I'm like getting all pumped, right? And so I break my thumb, this thumb right here. I break it in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Oh, what a blessing. Because I got a chance to sit in the stands and watch Tim do his work, and he was clipping guys.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was badass.
He was knocking. I said, oh, God took care of me. It's not such a bad thing after all. You know, because I would have got clipped that day.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was
stuck my foot in my mouth.
He was on the team with Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah.
92.
Yeah, 92 team. Yeah.
That guy, Southpaw, right? He's a Southpaw too, no?
He's a Southpaw.
Southpaw, tall?
Yeah, tall.
Tall
From
Southpaw.
Ohio.
Ohio has good boxing now, Coach.
They have a hell of a amateur boxing.
That was surprising to me, but you mentioned that to me the other day. I was like, really?
Ohio.
I can't remember who we were talking to about it, but...
What is it, Region 4, Region 5, something like that? Yeah. They got a hell of a boxing program, you know, especially that Cincinnati city.
Dang. Yeah. Wait, before we wrap up, Keyshawn Davis this weekend.
Who's he fighting?
He's fighting Baranchik. I think he's fighting for the title.
The guy that fought, that beat Vaquero.
Yeah.
He was on the team with Usyk and Loma.
And Loma.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got to go with Keyshawn.
I'm going with Keyshawn.
Yeah, I think that's going to be easy work with Keyshawn.
I'm going with Keyshawn. Yeah. Abdullah Mason's going to be on that card, I think. Also,
I already told you
Xander
that's my boy right there.
Yeah, Abdullah, man. I know. I love watching that kid.
Yeah.
It's so impressive to me.
Very promising young man.
But yeah, that's the big card this weekend.
Coach, is Devin
February
Alexander
14th.
from St. Louis?
Yes, he's from St. Louis.
So I didn't know this. Brian was telling me Figueroa.
Yeah.
He named his son Alexander because Devin Alexander was his favorite fighter growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I think he's from St. Louis, where Basheer's from. I told him.
I think he trains Stephen sometimes also in St.
That's
Louis.
right, huh? I think he did say that.
He has his own gym, and Stephen go over there and train with him.
So the Spinks are not from St. Louis, are they?
Yeah, they're from St. Louis.
Damn, you got some good boxing out there too.
Yeah.
St. Louis used to be a very talented city, but so much BS is going on in St. Louis.
Right.
You can't keep those kids.
A lot of violence, huh?
Alive.
It's like to that point, right, where like the adversity is like it starts to, when it's too much, it's a decline. It doesn't help, you know. But I think there's like a certain level of adversity where it's like you can catapult out of there. But Yeah,
you need a very talented, a young man that's open minded to it, because those streets are so promising to these kids. Like all the bad things that happen, like all the things they see that are negative.
Yeah,
they look at it like as positive,
right?
You know, and it's
right. That's true.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, a guy with the badass car and guy with
I'm gonna
this,
do that.
yeah. But they don't realize it's just short term.
Absolutely,
and that happens here, everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
every hood. Remember, all the amateur studs used to, like Ricardo Williams, and he knows a kid named Marshall Martinez. They call him Chamuco.
Yeah,
he should have been Olympian.
Oh, he was bad,
but the streets swallowed him up.
Yeah,
that's why I don't believe.
L.A.
Yeah, Steven Luevano's brother, half brother, Marshall Martinez. They used to call him the Chamuco.
Yeah,
stud. Him and Ricardo Williams were always like, Ricardo Williams, Ohio, no?
Yeah, he's from Cincinnati.
Lefty, super stud, 139 back then.
Yeah,
and he's one of the kids he said he took to the stands or to Hungary. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Budapest.
Yeah. Ricardo Williams.
He was never lost.
Dang.
Got his first L with me.
Oh, oh, he's one of them.
Yeah. So I walked over to Ricardo after this. Man, why you have to lose with me?
Well, thank you, Coach, for joining us. We reached that time.
Yeah.
It was
real quick before we go. I want to give a shout out to my son. Today is his birthday, my oldest son. Happy birthday. He turned 40 today. You're an old man now. So I pray that God bless you.
Happy birthday, mijo.
All right.
I got to meet him. He was here. I saw him spar, seen him train. I had conversations with him. Great kid, man. And young man.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, mijo. And you guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Any messages, any questions you guys want to ask, hit us up.
Please.
And let us know.
Peace.
Thank you, Coach.
Peace. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, girl.
This has been a Point in Yo production. Yeah, I think the words, but sometimes they don't come out of my mouth no good.